Hey everyone, I hope y'all are having a great day. Today I'm bringing you a very quick book review for Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating by Christina Lauren. I say this is a quick book review because I read this book quite some time ago, about the same time that I was reading Strange the Dreamer, and when I looked back at the notes that I had taken, I'd literally taken like 3. So I'm really just drawing upon the few memories that I have. But I do want to document the thoughts that I do remember. And yeah, I definitely wore this sweatshirt in a recent video, and I usually try not to repeat clothes in videos that are close to each other chronologically. But you know what? This is just objectively my favorite sweatshirt right now. That didn't make any sense. Something cannot be objective and favorite. But it's just truthfully my favorite thing to wear because it's cold in Nashville right now, and I just think it's nice and oversized and cute and colorful. So yes, moving on. So I was really in search of a cute romantic comedy sort of book, and so I picked up Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating because it had pretty good Goodreads reviews, and also I'd heard good things about Christina Lauren before. Christina Lauren, by the way, is the pen name of 2 authors who are like best friends with each other, and they write jointly, and I want to say it's a mix of their 2 names, but honestly I'm not quite sure. But yes, it's 2 people writing and they write together. I'd heard pretty good things about their books before. I heard they were cute and fun and romantic and lovely, and so I decided to hop on board and pick up Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating. I always forget the title of this book. I just want to call it Josh and Hazel, so that's what I'm gonna do. But I remember literally the first page of reading Josh and Hazel. It starts with chapter 1, and then it has Hazel's full name. I don't know why I instantly judged this book so quickly, but I remember reading Hazel's full name and thinking this book is gonna be so white. And I don't know if you know this about me, if you're new to this channel somehow, but representation of people of color, of the LGBTQ+ community, representation of any sort of minority population is very important to me, especially in media and especially in the literature that I read. And for some reason, the first page being Hazel's full name to me screamed, this book is gonna be so white. And then I continued reading. I just had to read that 1 page. I don't know why I was so eager to judge this book. If I had just finished reading that first page, I would have realized that the love interest is named Josh M. And I was like, oh, wait a second. Hold your horses, Sophia. You know that last name. And yes, indeed, M is a Korean last name, and our love interest, also the other protagonist of this book, because it is dual POV, Josh M is a Korean American boy, and also the main character's best friend is a Korean American woman, because the love interest and the best friend are actually siblings. But yeah, I was so excited. I was so excited to see a Korean person as a love interest. I also think it's particularly powerful to see an Asian male love interest because there's like this entire discussion about how male Asians are always portrayed femininely and how they don't have the same kind of masculinity as other men of different races. But yes, that is an interesting discussion, and so it was very nice seeing Josh M be a Korean boy and also being portrayed in a very, masculine, attractive way. But yeah, I was very quick to judge this book, I'm going to admit it. I was so nitpicky at the beginning. For example, the entire book is told in dual POVs, so you get Hazel's perspective and you also get Josh's perspective, and they're both written in first person, so you're very much inside their minds. And at first I really did not enjoy that, especially because I think the first time they introduced the dual POVs, it was the same event, and it was just the same period of time told in Hazel's point of view, but then also Josh's point of view, and I got very annoyed by that. I was like, this is an unnecessary recap. This is not propelling the plot forward in any way, and I was really scared that the rest of the novel was also going to be literally the same plot points that we had to rewind and go back through just to experience them in both characters' POVs, but that wasn't the case. It was just in the beginning, so that was later fixed. And then also, this is a pet peeve of mine, but I hate when characters are described with their weight. So I think it was maybe the first time that we were in Josh's point of view, he describes Hazel and he's like, she's 5'4", she's 110 pounds, sopping wet, something along those lines, and I was like, this is completely unnecessary. This is just something that really irritates me personally as a reader. I'm not going to say that it's a general flaw and that objectively it's a bad thing to do, but I really get annoyed when characters, especially female characters, are described by their weight. I just think weight is so irrelevant. Also, because it was from Josh's perspective, there's literally no way that you'd be able to know how much Hazel weighs just by looking at her. But yeah, again, I just think it's an irrelevant detail, a characteristic that doesn't serve the story in any way, and I just think that it's dangerous to include weight when you have a lot of female readers, because obviously, I think for clear reasons, weight is a sensitive topic for a lot of women, and so bringing up specific numbers associated with the character can make the reader view themselves in a way that might be negative, things like that. So I just feel like it's dangerous territory that you shouldn't step into unless the story really calls for it, which it rarely does. So yes, in the beginning, I was super nitpicky, but then I quickly just really got engaged into the story. It was really fun, very funny. The characters are super charismatic and they have really, really great chemistry. But yes, so in the beginning, I was super nitpicky about it. Also, just realized that I absolutely did not describe the plot of the story at all. So, Josh and Hazel's guide to not dating. Basically, Josh and Hazel, they knew each other peripherally in college. Hazel had a huge crush on Josh, and Josh didn't seem to show any interest in Hazel. But then later in their adult life, they meet again because Hazel's best friend is Hazel's sister. That didn't make sense. Hazel's best friend is Josh's sister, and they're both single, so they decide to set the other person up with a person that they know, and together they go on double dates. And so they're both being set up kind of on a blind date-ish, but they're together so that it's always a double date, and it always ends up being disastrous in some kind of way. But yeah, it's just a really fun story. It's definitely cute. There is a lot of humor in it. There is a lot of charm with both of the characters. At first I was annoyed by Hazel's character, but then you quickly learn to appreciate her, and you really love that she's so devoted to being her true self. She's honestly a ginormous hot mess, and she's a little wacky, but she's tired of trying to change for the men around her, and she realizes that people around her should love her for exactly who she is, and she discovers that along the course of the book, and I think that's a really beautiful message. But yeah, once I got through the first, I don't know, however many pages, I quickly saw what was really appealing about Christina Lauren's writing. It's just really fun, really lighthearted, very cute. So the beginning of the book was rocky for me, but then the entire middle chunk I was like, this is just so much fun, I'm really enjoying reading this. And then we get to the end, and the end is kind of polarizing. So there is a giant plot event that happens that I think people will definitely feel a certain way about it depending on their stance and their preference, and I'm going to talk about it in the spoiler section. I personally am not a fan. It's definitely a trope that I, based on my tastes, really, really despise actually. But some other people might be into it. I don't know. Not a fan, but besides the beginning and the end, really enjoyed the middle. The entire time I was reading this, I remember it reminded me so much of Twilight Fan Fiction, and that is not criticism. I think I've said this before, I can't remember when, in what video, but I love Twilight Fan Fiction, and I read so much of it between the ages of like 12 and even not so much anymore, but like 12 to maybe 17 or 18, I read so much Twilight fan fiction. And this read so much like an alternative universe Twilight fan fiction, and I do not mean that in a negative way at all. I love Twilight fanfic, and I think people in general love Twilight fanfic. It actually, a lot of adult slash new adult rom-com-ish kind of books, especially a lot of the self-published ones, are written by people who used to write Twilight fanfiction. And so they would have a popular Twilight fanfiction, and then they would want to pull it off the site so that they could publish it after changing the characters' names and things like that. They'd self-publish it under, you know, a pen name. So that's a really common practice, and it just goes to show how popular Twilight fanfiction can be. And I definitely feel like Christina Lauren, they give me Twilight fanfic vibes, and I love that stuff. So they kind of feel like a grown-up Casey West a little bit, where it's like fun and you enjoy it. It's not going to be your favorite, but it's still a good time. Now I'm going to go into a very quick spoiler section just so I can talk about the ending. So if you haven't read this book, I would advise leaving in 3, 2, 1. Goodbye. Alright, so hopefully if you haven't read this book, you're gone now, but if you've read this book, you know that the book ends with Hazel accidentally getting pregnant, and I hate this trope. Like, I really, really hate this trope. I hate pregnancy in books. As much as I love pregnancy in real life, like, I love shadowing OBGYNs. I love watching childbirth. Like, I think that's one of the most miraculous and amazing things you can witness. It's so interesting to me because I love the idea of pregnancy in real life, and I think it's just so cool, and the female body is just incredible. But in books, I hate it. I hate reading about that. So I was so disappointed to realize where the story was going when Hazel was starting to get sick, and I was like, oh girl, you preggo. That was just so sad for me because I hate storylines like that. It's just a personal preference. I feel like once you get to the pregnancy stage, it's no longer fun and games. Like, that's serious stuff. Raising a child, that is really, really serious. And so I feel like pregnancy is the signal of the end of the fun and games section of a relationship, and I was like, how can we end the fun and games section when they're not even in a relationship to begin with? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is just, it's a sad development for me. But yeah, and then the epilogue was like them legitimately as adults with multiple children, and I was like, this is not how I imagined this story ending, but here we are. I just hate when pregnancy is included in books. I just think it's an annoying trope. Anytime there's a Twilight fan fiction where Bella gets pregnant, I'm like, I'm out. Snip, snip. I'm cutting that out of my life. Okay, that's the end of the spoiler section. That's literally all I wanted to talk about. But yeah, that's my video on Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating by Christina Lauren. Will I read another Christina Lauren book in the future? Perhaps, if I'm really in the mood for, you know, a fun rom-com, which I often am in the mood for, so definitely not unlikely that I'll read another Christina Lauren book. Am I super impressed with this one? I'm not blown away by this book, but it's undeniably a really fun read, and also it has a person of color as a love interest. Not only just a person of color, it's a Korean person. We love to see it. We love to see it. But yeah, I enjoyed this book. Definitely worth the read for me, in my opinion. It was really fun. If you read this book, please let me know your thoughts on it. If you've read more of Christina Lauren, let me know what you would recommend next. Like if I were to read another Christina Lauren book, which one should I try? If you haven't read this book, are you interested in it at all? Any thoughts? Any thoughts? I would love to hear them. Leave them down in the comments. But yes, thank you so much for watching. I hope y'all have a fantastic day and happy reading. Goodbye.